The interviewer spits into the coffee and asks the man to sell it within 2 minutes. Surprisingly, the man drinks the coffee and takes out $20, saying, "I'll buy this coffee." What a tough guy. The boss laughs and gives him 2 days trial. This is India's top securities company and everyone is from Harvard or Oxford. The protagonist comes from the countryside. Although he entered the company, the real challenge has just begun. As soon as he starts work, the pretty supervisor gives him a death list of the 50 hardest customers. The company spent 2 years to persuade them to trade stocks but failed. The last person to receive this list jumped off a building because of his zero performance. The protagonist suddenly realizes that he is just a dumbass in the eyes of these people. But he doesn't give up and still calls one by one. The first call is interrupted rudely before he can even introduce himself. The second, third, and up to the 49th all end in failure, leaving only the last one, the Whitebeard from a pharmaceuticals. Coincidentally, the Whitebeard is facing an unprecedented crisis. His company has been targeted by competitors with negative rumors, causing the stock price to plummet 20 points. At this time, calling him is like committed suicide. His colleagues are eager to watch the fun and cheer him on. The protagonist doesn't give up and calls anyway. Nobody expected that. Under pressure of the board, Whitebeard needs to cash out his 20,000 shares worth $39.6 million. The protagonist picks up a big leak. He stands up and appeals to all his colleagues to persuade their clients to buy in quickly, but everyone thinks he is crazy. The protagonist shouted that this pharmaceutical company have survived for 20 years and cannot be defeated by a 20-minute rumor. No one believes him. However, the pretty supervisor convinces a client to buy in completely. The transaction amount was $39.6 million. And the poor guy's commission was $800,000. The protagonist is too excited to calm down and even rush to vomit. After cleaning up, he smiles all the time. The pretty supervisor also comes to congratulate. In the evening, the supervisor also takes him to a high-level party, where rich businessmen gather. His performance will skyrocket if he can take one as his client. But the protagonist only aims to Shakun, his idol since childhood. While Shakun is in the bathroom, the protagonist follows without hesitation. This boy, only 10 years old, began smuggling diamonds. The police searched around him, but he even invited them to eat popcorn. The police walked away, not knowing there were a large number of diamonds hidden inside. With this innocent face, he became the best courier in the industry. At 12, he started an independent portal and sold diamonds on his own. At 18, in order to expand overseas, he learned fluent English by himself. At 20, he married the daughter of a diamond company and began to manage the family business. In less than a decade, he made the company value 10,000 times than ever. His name is Shakun and he is a legend in the business. Playing with stocks is his thing. On this day, he attends a party, and his friend reveals that an agricultural stock will soar tomorrow, so he should hurry up. But suddenly the protagonist bursts in and shouts that he can't buy it. Everyone is confused and asks, "Who the hell are you?" He says, "I'm just a small clerk at a securities company, but you can trust me that this stock is sure to fall." The next day, the protagonist keeps his eyes on the stock, and as expected, after it rises to 600, due to farmers' resistance, the big fortune's investment failed and the stock price plummets rapidly. Shakun appreciates his insight and gives him a check, asking him to help invest. The protagonist opens it and sees it is a whole bloody 10 billion. From then on, the protagonist becomes famous and soars to a billion-dollar level stockbroker. But Shakun's money is not so easy to get. The protagonist studies day and night and finally catches an opportunity. Recently, a mountain flood broke out somewhere, and all the shelters were destroyed. The protagonist knows that the boss of a local construction company is the nephew of government chief, and such a big project will surely fall to him, so he immediately invests 500,000 shares in the company. News comes that the cause of the flood is the construction company's boss. His company is completely sealed off and declares bankrupt. The first shot results in a loss of 120 million. The protagonist is under great pressure. He totters to the bar at night and unexpectedly meets his pretty supervisor. She tells the protagonist, a coating company has been acquired by the United States and will be officially announced tomorrow. The stock price will double then. Do you want to buy it? The protagonist hesitates a bit. It is illegal to use exclusive information. He may spend his 100th birthday in jail. On the second day of opening, he frantically bargain hunts out the coating company's stocks. As expected, the news comes out, and the stock price soars from 40 to 70. He makes a net profit of 200 million when market closes. After the sudden wealth, the protagonist moves into a luxury apartment, begin wearing branded clothes and watches and hooking up with girls every night. Shakun also treats him as his right-hand man and takes him to various high-end parties, introducing him to the rich. But what he doesn't know is that they have already been targeted by the Financial Regulatory Authority, and Shakun is far from being as simple as he appeared. One day, Shakun suddenly asks the protagonist to take a break and go home. The protagonist is confused. It turns out that his hometown has a small company called Sky Communication, which is qualified to bid for a 4G communication license. Shakun has already bribed government officials to award the bid in the name of the company. He sends the protagonist ahead to investigate. When the protagonist goes back to his hometown with honor, He rushes to tell his family to invest all their assets in Sky Communication. The whole family excitedly embraces each other. After returning, Shikun publicly announces his investment in Sky Communication and appoints our protagonist as the juridical person to manage the company. Under the strong promotion campaign, the company's stock is crazily bought up by countless shareholders. Its stock price skyrockets rapidly, and our protagonist becomes an overnight sensation, with news headlines reporting on how this poor rustic is about to become the next financial tycoon like Shikun. In the final bidding results, Sky Communication fails to win the bid, and the company's stock price plunges, putting it on the brink of bankruptcy. After a while, officials from the Securities and Exchange Commission arrive and forcibly take him away. It turns out that just an hour before the bidding results were publicly announced, someone sold Sky Communications 40 billion shares, pocketing a huge number of money from countless shareholders. The protagonist realizes that Sky Communications' participation in the bidding was just a ruse, and the real goal was to use it to buy low and sell high to obtain a huge amount of money. The protagonist becomes the fall guy. Fortunately, the head of Securities and Exchange Commission tells him that if he cooperates and provides evidence of Shikun's bribes, his previous crimes will be erased. The protagonist rushes to Shikun's house to ask for an explanation, but Shikun openly reveals the truth. It turns out that it was Shikun's arrangement for the protagonist to become a stock trader, and the reason why he can accidentally sell the low-priced shares of the pharmaceuticals is that Shikun secretly spread rumors to lower the stock price and then bought them through the pretty supervisor, who was also Shikun's person. She intentionally created an opportunity for the protagonist to meet Shikun and illegally profited from exclusive information, then naturally pushed the protagonist into the position of juridical person of Sky Communication, with each step being a trap. The protagonist is desperate and comes to the top of a building. He remembered all the past with Shikun, and suddenly remembered an important detail. Back then, Shikun had made his fortune by smuggling diamonds on trains. Nowadays, he mostly bribes officials in a subtle way using diamonds. He tells this guest to the Securities and Exchange Commission, and they immediately dispatch a search of the suspicious train. As expected, a large number of diamonds are found in the driver's lunchbox. In the end, the protagonist successfully sends his idol, mentor, and even spiritual father to prison, and he became penniless. No, he did not become completely penniless. After this shot, perhaps he truly gains wealth that will benefit him for life.